So one day we were preparing to shoot this big giant scene. It was a dance scene at the Gambrel barn. A lot of people involved, a lot of moving parts in these scenes. And about 4 hours before our shoot, I get a text from Jonna, our casting director and acting coach, saying that she has a friend, Tom Baker, who wants to come by and shoot some behind the scenes, take some photos. So there's another guy that lives around here. His name's Tim Baker. Tim he's got one of the most dashing smiles you'd ever see. He's a real suave looking guy, just a charming individual. And I read Jonna's text as saying, Tim Baker. We get on set and I'm going through all of these jobs and responsibilities. The actors are working on their dance. In walks this guy who's got this ball cap on and he's really rustic looking. He just looks lost to me. Then I noticed he's carrying this camera, and so I thought, okay, maybe he is in the right place. I must have read her text wrong. Tom Baker. Okay, I read Tim Baker. He wasn't the suave, charming, just gorgeous smile kind of guy I expected to see that day. He's just following me around. He attached the Sony camera to a gimbal and he's very good with it. It was hard for me not to be distracted that day by what Tom was doing because he was clearly familiar with how to use a camera. As time went by, there were more days that Tom Baker would come to set and shoot some behind the scenes stuff with us to prepare for a scene, and sometimes in between takes I would be working with the actors, but I would hear Tom Baker talking with David Watson, our director of photography, and other people about lenses that he had and aperture settings and ISO, and just he was a gearhead. He was real familiar with cameras and how they worked, and I found myself kind of pulling toward the conversation that they were having over there. I'm not a gearhead, but I was really interested in Tom's knowledge. He really knew a lot. For Tom to be able to have an intelligent conversation with David Watson, our director of photography, on camera settings and dynamic range and just all of this jargon that camera guys know was very interesting to me, and I realized Tom's not just a behind-the-scenes guy, he really is familiar with cinematography. So I took note of that, and we got to probably, I think it was day 22 or 23 of our shoot, and we were in a cabin, and I really wanted to capture this cabin. I really wanted to show it off. This was a day that we were missing our director of photography, David Watson. He couldn't get off work. We had some competent camera guys there, but we were also missing Dylan Bridges, who was another key camera operator of ours. I went over to him and said, hey, Tom, can you do me a favor today? Instead of shoot behind the scenes, can you actually shoot footage for the film? Oh yeah, not a problem. Super confident, no problem. He was very willing to do it, very willing to use his camera for footage for the film. And it was great because I ended up using a lot of the shots that he captured that day for these actual scenes. Was so grateful to have him. Throughout shooting the film, I found out Tom's not just a camera guy, he's also an actor. He was going to Jonna Voll's acting classes at the time, and I know she doesn't just take anybody, so he would have had to have a certain degree of acting ability. And we had this day that we needed a pawn shop owner, and so I called up Tom and was like, hey man, do you think you could come play this pawn shop owner? Oh yeah, I can do that. And so Tom comes in and he had this idea that pawn shop owners are kind of edgy and kind of rude, so he approached his character this way, and his performance was just awesome. I think my favorite moment on set with Tom was
anything else?
Vince comes, he's buying these things at this pawn shop, and Vince asks, do you have any guns?
What kind of gun you want, killer?
Kind that shoots bullets. And Tom's facial expression and reaction to that line was just so funny and so good to me. I just always enjoyed that moment on set with him. Little did I know that this rustic guy that showed up on set that day that I thought was going to be Tim Baker and ended up being Tom Baker, little did I know that within a few short days, he would become one of my best friends. I really, really love that man. He's an amazing guy.